Look closely at the man standing in the rain. He is holding a bouquet of roses that cost him 2 hours of labor. He has spent the last 3 months playing the role of the perfect listener, absorbing her trauma, validating her insecurities, and offering a shoulder that is always available, always soft, and always predictable. He believes he is building a bridge to her heart. He believes that the sheer volume of his niceness is a currency that he can eventually exchange for intimacy. But look at her eyes as she thanks him. There is no fire. There is no hunger. There is only a polite, hollow gratitude, the kind one offers a helpful waiter or a reliable utility bill. 10 minutes later, she is thinking about a man who hasn't texted her back in 3 days. A man who is unpredictable, dangerous, and entirely indifferent to her approval. You call this a tragedy. You call this unfair. But here, in the behavioral psychology lab, we do not deal in the currency of fairness. We deal in the cold, clinical reality of the biological algorithm. The incision reveals a truth that your social conditioning has tried to hide. Her subconscious does not reject you because you are too good. It rejects you because your kindness, when stripped of the capacity for danger, is encoded by the female brain as a genetic error. Nature does not care about your morals. It cares about survival potential. And in the high-stakes game of prehistoric selection, a man who cannot say no is a man who cannot protect. We must begin by performing a forensic audit of the nice guy delusion. You have been taught that kindness is a universal solvent, a tool that can melt any boundary. You operate under what the data identifies as a covert contract, a hidden psychological agreement where you provide good behavior and expect affection as the payout. But the biological marketplace is not a vending machine. When you use kindness as a currency, you are not being nice. You are being manipulative. You are attempting to buy her desire because you do not believe you have the internal value to command it. The subconscious of the high-stakes selector, the female mind, is an expert at detecting this specific frequency of desperation. She senses that your gentleness is not a choice, but a default setting born of a lack of options. If you are only nice because you are afraid to be anything else, your kindness is not a virtue. It is a defensive crouch. To the primitive brain, safe is often a synonym for useless. The survival algorithm dictates that a partner who is 100% predictable offers zero novel dopamine. You are killing her attraction with the very thing you think is saving it: your total lack of friction. To understand the abyssal depth of this rejection, we must view the male psyche through 5 specific lenses of failure. First, the subconscious filter. For hundreds of thousands of years, the female brain functioned as a hyper-vigilant gatekeeper for the gene pool. In an era where a single bad choice in a mate meant physical death or the starvation of offspring, the subconscious filter evolved to detect weakness disguised as agreeableness. If a man is too eager to please, the ancient amygdala asks a lethal question. If he cannot even stand up to me, how will he stand up to a predator? Second, the behavior of predictability. Attraction thrives in the space between the known and the unknown. When you become a 100% predictable machine, you stop being a romantic interest and start being a piece of furniture. You have neutralized the dopamine search of her brain. Third, the amygdala's confusion. The female fear center, the amygdala, is hardwired to seek controlled chaos. There is a structural confusion between boring and safe. A man who offers no edge, no risk, and no potential for danger triggers a boredom response so intense it manifests as physical repulsion. Fourth, the social exploitation. Society has programmed you to be obedient because obedient men are easier to manage in a workforce. But biology is not interested in your ability to follow office memos. It cow-cart controlled danger. And fifth, the stoic reality of indifference. The most powerful tool in the human arsenal is the ability to walk away. The nice guy cannot walk away because his self-worth is tethered to her approval. This lack of sovereign indifference signals low resource potential. You are a beggar at the table of intimacy, and nobody desires a beggar. The data is cold, and the truth is colder. We must turn to the hard evidence provided by the parental investment theory of Robert Trivers, 1972. In any species where one sex has a higher biological cost for reproduction, the female that sex must be the more discriminating judge. The stakes for her are infinitely higher than yours. Therefore, her subconscious is programmed to look for genetic quality over social compliance. Consider the research on the Dark Triad by Jonathan et al. 2009. The data reveals a disturbing paradox. Traits of narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy often hack the female attraction system. Why? Because these traits signal a high-confidence, high-risk-taking strategy. They signal a man who is the architect of his own reality, not a servant of someone else's. Even the OkCupid data on attractiveness distribution confirms a brutal 80/20 reality. Women rated 80% of men as below average in attractiveness. This is the psychology of scarcity in action. If you are like every other nice guy in the 80%, you are invisible. You are background noise in the simulation. The halo effect further proves that physical and social dominance creates an aura of goodness that actual morality cannot replicate. She will forgive a bad boy for his flaws because he possesses genetic currency, but she will never forgive a nice guy for being boring. You have been lied to by a decade of rom-coms and mass media. The social exploitation of the male spirit begins in childhood, where you are told that if you are just good enough, the princess will choose you. This is the ultimate predatory lie. The media teaches you to have no boundaries, to chase until she changes her mind, and to apologize for your own masculine drive. But kindness without teeth is just weakness. A man who is incapable of being a monster is not good. He is simply harmless. There is a profound difference between a man who has his sword sheathed and a man who has no sword at all. The man with the sheathed sword is respected because he has the power to be dangerous, but chooses discipline. The man without a sword is ignored. Your niceness is often just a mask for your lack of boundaries. You allow yourself to be disrespected because you are terrified of conflict. But in the biological reality, a man who cannot defend his own boundaries is a man who cannot defend a family, a mission, or a legacy. You are being genetically discarded because you have failed to prove that you have the will to power. The surgical cure is not to become a villain or a predator. It is to become dangerous but disciplined. You must move from the sidewalk of approval to the greenhouse of sovereignty. The first step is to kill the approval seeker within you. You must build a mission that is more important than the validation of any woman. When your life's purpose is the center of your universe, you naturally develop the sovereign indifference that is so highly valued by the female subconscious. You become the environment, not a choice within it. You must establish ironclad boundaries. You must be willing to lose her at any moment if your values are compromised. This willingness to walk is the highest signal of high-value status. It proves that you have an internal citadel of peace that she did not build and therefore cannot destroy. You must stop treating kindness as a currency and start treating it as a gift that is only given to those who earn it. If your kindness is free to everyone, it has a market value of 0. The final epiphany is this: kindness is only a virtue when it is a choice. If you are nice because you lack the strength to be anything else, you are not a virtuous man. You are a victim of your own biology. True kindness is the restraint of a monster. It is the intentional gentleness of a man who could, if he chose, burn the world down, but chooses to build it instead. That is the frequency she is looking for. She is looking for the monster who keeps his sword sheathed. She is looking for the architect of chaos who has mastered himself. When you stop begging for a seat at her table and start building your own empire in the wilderness, the social ghost protocol reverses. You are no longer the one being discarded. You are the one defining the reality. The question is no longer, why does she reject me? The question is, are you strong enough to be truly kind? This lab is closing, but your reconstruction has just begun. If you are ready to stop being a genetic error and start being the sovereign pilot of your destiny, subscribe to the Behavioral Psychology Lab. We are the Watchers on the Tower. Class dismissed. Would you like me to perform a deeper psychological dissection on the specific traits of the dangerous but disciplined man to help you rebuild your internal architecture?